one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Monthly financial, and that's all on the consent agenda. Public comments? Dear Mount School Administration staff, thank you so much for the beautiful plan set during my recent hospital stay. Your thoughts and well wishes were very much appreciated. With gratitude from both of us, Bill and Beth Everts. And I have one thanking you for your kindness and thanking God for you and your friends. Thank you so much for the beautiful plant. You can do that. Okay, so it's from Dan Smith. Family. I can't read what it says. Dear school board members, thank you so much for your generous donation of $100 to the Mount Rushmore Middle School Library in honor of the school board's appreciation day. Your support brought 10 books for our students, and they are so happy with the titles your gifts enabled us to buy. We are very grateful for your support of reading and literacy. Thank you again, Kelly Krause, Mount Rushmore Middle School Librarian. Whiteman report.
Excuse me, sorry about that. Carl Sparks Citizens Regrets is on leave right now. Happy to be here. So everything has been relatively quiet. We are in a brief lull in between inspections, TV visits, and upcoming exercises.
Thank you. MSBA report.
So, excuse me, good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us this evening and our second evening with board docs. So bear with us as we kind of get this into routine. But one of the new features this month and carrying forward will be the principal and board director reports. Those will be provided to the board in writing. And then if there are any questions on any items on any report, now would be a time when you could ask that to the principal or director. And if there are no questions, then we would move right along. But did want to mention that and clarify that, and also express my thanks to the directors and principals for that extra report to the board. And I did get some good feedback on that, so thank you.
MSBA report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of March. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at some new technology that uses the internet to connect students with qualified licensed professionals such as speech-language pathologists and mental health experts. Many school districts in Missouri have difficulty finding and employing qualified persons in those and other areas. MSBA Associate Executive Director Dr. Kim Ratcliffe says the MSBA Medicaid Consortium now can help school districts use teletherapy to provide the support many students need to be successful in school.
Through our Medicaid consortium, we were aware of how often districts are not able to employ qualified people. But at the real heart of it, MSBA's mission is to help schools succeed, school boards succeed. And school boards succeed when their children achieve. Many times, because districts cannot hire qualified persons, then they're not providing the supports to allow students to achieve to their full potential. And this fills that gap for them.
Besides teletherapy, the technology also can be used to connect school district staff located in different buildings with each other for consultations. It also can be used to connect students who must miss school for extended periods with a classroom, allowing those students to continue to participate in lessons. You can contact Dr. Ratcliffe at MSBA for more information on how your school district can take advantage of this technology to support students. The implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act was one of the major topics discussed at the recent MSBA Legislative Forum in Jefferson City. More than 250 school board members and administrators attended the event this year. The Director of Federal Legislation for the National School Boards Association, Deborah Rigsby, joined the meeting via Skype after her flights out of Washington were canceled due to a snowstorm. She told the group, the new law that replaces No Child Left Behind affirms local governance and has the potential to allow much greater flexibility and innovation at the local level. But she added, much depends on the development of the regulations associated with the law, and she encouraged school board members to provide input on those regulations, both at the federal and state levels.
The ways in which we can influence this regulatory process. You may say, well, the law is passed now, this is where we can, no, the work just begins, as your president stated, about how do we ensure that we are going to maintain the spirit and intent of the law about local governance, about flexibility, and about giving the latitude to the state and school districts to maintain that, to establish your own benchmarks and not have such rigorous control through the regulatory process that it doesn't, that it would inhibit any type of innovation and successful reform at the local level.
Rigsby added the goal of the U.S. Department of Education is to have the regulations associated with the Every Student Succeeds Act in place by December 31st of this year. By the way, the Every Student Succeeds Act will be the primary topic of discussion at MSBA's spring regional meetings set for April and May. See the MSBA website for the date and location of the spring regional meeting near you. Signature gathering is now underway for an initiative petition proposal to raise Missouri's lowest in the nation cigarette tax to fund the expansion of early childhood education and health programs in our state. It's called the Raise Your Hand for Kids campaign. Executive Director Linda Rollo told those attending the legislative forum in Jefferson City, the expansion of early childhood education will pay big dividends in the future.
One of the hardest things about trying to get people behind an initiative that you may not see the real benefits for 20 years is that so many times in our state we're looking for a quick fix with so many issues and so many challenges that you just can't wait around. And I look at this like we don't have a choice but to wait around, and we need to look at what's going to look like in 20 years. But I think there's so many benefits that we can see in the short term. If you want to look at it from a jobs program, you're going to have a lot more jobs you're going to be creating with this. In 5 years after kids have the opportunity for early childhood education, when they start school, you're going to see test scores go up. So there'll be short-term gains, but I think it's time to have the courage in our state to really look long and think about, what do we want to leave behind for our future generations, for our kids, our grandkids. And I think this would be a really great gift that we could all give our kids.
The proposal would raise Missouri's cigarette tax by 60 cents a pack. That would still be well below the tobacco tax in most of our neighboring states. Missouri currently ranks 38th in the nation when it comes to funding preschool education and has only 3% of our 4-year-olds enrolled in a public preschool program. If the signature gathering effort is successful, the initiative would appear on the November general election ballot. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Superintendent's report.
Again, good evening, everyone. I want to start out just by thanking our office staff, Ms. Huntsman, Ms. Frieden, and of course, Ms. Brandt for what we've done before. I was out at NAFIS from Saturday through late last night, and they seem to say that things ran pretty smoothly in my absence, and I should try more often. So we'll see how that goes. For the monthly board report, last month, again, has been a busy one. Our teachers, staff, and administrators continue to demonstrate their dedication to our students through not only what occurs in the classroom, but also through all the supporting work that goes into our comprehensive educational program. This month's agenda contains several items which represent the culmination of ongoing work and collaborative input from our team. I'm excited and encouraged by the direction our team is moving our district, as well as the unity which exists between teachers, administrations, and the board on critical topics. The future is very bright, and we look very forward to that with optimism and high expectations. Our enrollment, as you can see, is pretty steady with last month. Attendance percent, Knob-Noster Elementary School, 95.33, Knob-Noster Middle School, 95.72, Knob-Noster High School, 93.94, and Whiteman Elementary School, 95.27, for a district total of 95.21. And I think that has Knob-Noster Middle School as the winner again this month. So for that, go ahead and let your students know they get all of next week off. And we appreciate their attendance. Financial reports for the month ending. Balances of all funds, $11,939,711. Revenues, $10 million. To date, $10,734,639, which is 68.6% of anticipated. Expenditures, $8,500,777, which is 54.4% of the budgeted amount. Upcoming Monday, March 28th is a full PD day for staff. We look very forward to enjoying this time together for professional learning. Collective bargaining continues to progress. We now have 3 meetings under our belt, and we are possibly moving toward a potential end product. The board will be briefed in executive session on details. A recent survey of staff was conducted, and the data gathered will be used to inform a number of important decisions, including the school calendar, our teacher evaluation instrument, compensation, PLC structure, and professional development, among other items. That data will be reviewed in the corresponding agenda items below. 350 new lab and teacher desktop machines arrived last week. Mr. Davis and his team report that they are very pleased with the products. The tech team will continue their work to get the new labs in place in time for testing. And I believe the report today said you guys have 4 completed already. So thank you very much for that work. And we think that'll pay off big time for our students during testing. Enhancing safety on our buses continues to be a top priority. Last week, safety switches were installed on all district buses. We had 1 exception left, and I understand now that has been installed. These switches buzz when the bus is turned off and require the driver to walk to the back of the bus to reset that buzzer as a prompt to ensure the bus is physically checked to ensure it is empty following each use. So as part of our pre and post trip checks, that's a standard procedure. These buzzers serve as a reminder to make sure that happens. And for some reason, if that doesn't happen, those buzzers go off and be noticed by others. So we're happy with that. In addition, drivers have reviewed safety protocols for pre and post trips to ensure we are implementing the protocols with fidelity. And last but not least, next year's FY17 budget will include capital outlay for the installation of multi-lens cameras to further enhance school safety. We will continue to hold regular monthly meetings for drivers to ensure we stay up to date on important issues involving school bus safety. Assistant superintendent interviews have been scheduled for tomorrow. A committee consisting of Board of Education members, administrators, and directors, and myself will conduct interviews on finalists. Today we had just short of, I believe we had around 18 applicants total, and we have selected those finalists. The essential functions of this position, as you're aware, have been modified to specifically address curriculum, instruction, assessment, professional learning, and some human resources functions. We look forward to selecting a high-quality educator who continuously improve these critical areas. Legislatively speaking, the Senate Joint Resolution 39 at the state level is a highly controversial non-education issue, but it has caused quite the disruption in the progression of business through the legislature. So we will watch carefully to see how issues progress. And I did include the SAC Legislative Bulletin for details. Last but not least, and certainly a highlight of this month, was my visit to Washington, D.C. I attended the National Association of Federally Impacted Schools Conference, and the purpose of that conference is to discuss impact aid and make sure that we stay abreast of any developments. Another major component of that conference is to attend Capitol Hill and lobby for the continuation of funding of impact aid. Added to the agenda tonight as an attachment is the basics of impact aid. I encourage the board to review that. We had a very good conversation. One of I was asked, is this necessary to attend? And one of the main functions is to lobby for continuation of impact aid funding. For those who aren't aware, hopefully most of us are, but the function of impact aid is it's a federal level funding that comes into the district, and it offsets the loss of local revenue from not only the land that is consumed by the base that's non-taxable, but it's also offset for educating those students who may live on base that do not pay local taxes. So it's the federal government's efforts to provide that flow-through funding to ensure that we can provide a high-quality education for our military impacted students as well as our local students. So it's very important, and in its absence, education in non-master would look dramatically different than what it looks like today. So it is important that we continue to do that. And the other reason why we have a spring and fall conference is the staffing members that advise our legislative decision makers, that staff turns over quite frequently, as you can imagine. So part of our job is to go in, and if we can get to the decision makers, that's great. But this time we only spoke mainly with the educational consultants and the staff members that then advise them. And our job is to educate them, make sure as that changeover happens that they're up to speed with the function of impact aid so that they can go and inform those decisions. So it is important. We got into, in Senator Blunt's office, we did get into more of the intricacies of impact aid. We did talk a little bit about BRAC. That was for the Military Impacted Schools Association group. That's something that's on the horizon. We heard about it out of the Base Community Council last month. It was a big topic this year as well. And we're expecting that we may have some informed input on that somewhere around 2019. So the function of that is to make sure we're ready should resources be consolidated to Whiteman Air Force Base, that our school has a strong relationship with the base, and that we're physically ready to accept new students should that happen. So that was a big discussion. Sequestration coming back in 18 was a big discussion, and it was exciting, a little dry, but exciting. And for me, it was a good first visit. So I appreciate that. And if you have any further questions, review that document and we can catch up on that. Last but not least, upcoming activities. UCM Job Fair was today, and we had a good time. All of our building principals, directors were over. We appreciate that. Board Candidate Forum for our candidates is coming up tomorrow night. That'll be in middle school at 7 p.m. Again, tomorrow, assistant superintendent interviews. Next week, why don't we all take the week off at the middle school students? And last but not least, the end of the month, the 30th through the 1st, we have the Missouri Association of School Administrators meeting, and a host of non-master administrators will be presenting there. And that wraps out the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Under new business, we have approval of rules requiring extension. First, we do, home heating and air conditioning.
Make a motion, we approve the both bills requiring extension.
I second
All in favor?
it. Aye.
Abstention? Approval of bills.
I make a motion that we approve March bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Historical student attendance and membership review.
So last month, there was a little bit of discussion about what our historic enrollment looks like. So we provided some information. There's some basic definitions on enrollment, ADA and membership, and then also attached is the DESE financial definitions. We have a new chart that we'll be following each month. And that is kind of a historical comparison. So we have the 14-15 compared to 15-16 enrollments numbers, and that's broken down by school and by grade level classification. So we can compare these numbers to where they were in the 14-15 school year. So definitely going to track that and see how we're trending. And is that an echo or is that? Okay.
It's a little picture, Mike.
How's that? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. No. So to the point of what was discussed last month, we've gone back and again, I want to thank Ms. Frieden for pulling this in. This is data for an overview from the 2003-2004 school year up to present. It's broken down by building. And we also included pre-K over here in this number. So we can see at the bottom the 12-year difference at Nowmaster High School from 03-04 to present. We've lost 144 students, while at the middle school we are up by 46 students. K&E is up by 10, and Whiteman Elementary is down by 121. So we've lost a significant number of students. You can see by year over here the difference. The one positive point, you can see we had a little bit of a trend of growth here. We lost most of that back, but we're up by another 52 students this year. That's based on the October count that was taken. So we want to watch this. We probably will also put together our spring count so we compare and see how students, when and how they're transferring in and out of the district based on semester. So that's kind of the answer to that question that was brought up last month.
Okay. Employee survey summary of response.
So this agenda item is information that was provided to the board shortly after the survey was concluded. There's a lot of good information in here. I don't want to go through all of it, but I did want to provide that to the Board of Education. If you have any questions on that, let me know. But again, this is the data that will be used to drive most of our calendar decisions, which will be up next month, as well as PD collaboration, some of our salary considerations, and some of the decisions that are being made in collective bargaining. Interestingly, I do want to point out while we're here, we came down and talked about NEE, Unit of Instruction and Professional Development Plan. We asked some questions about the effectiveness of the network, how it has grown, our teachers. This is all perceptual data from our certified staff. And then we just asked point blank, are you in favor of the district continuing with this model? We had a 71.1% that said no, that they were not interested in continuing. With the unit of instruction, we asked some of the similar questions. Has it improved what you're doing? We have these results. Are you in favor of continuing? 88.6% of teachers said no. In regard to the professional development plan, this was important as well. We only had about 45%, so about just short of half of this teacher said that they weren't in favor of continuing it. Had about a quarter that said yes, and about a quarter, or 30% that said no opinion and undecided. So that's a little bit different than what we're seeing up here with the unit of instruction as well as NEE as a whole. So those are some very important data points that we looked at that really guided in some of the agenda items that will be later on in the evening. One other thing before we move on, the last question was, last couple of questions. Do you value the opportunity to express your opinions in this manner? We had about 96.5 that said yes. And then rate the survey, we had about 37% that said excellent, 50% said above average, and 10 said average. So felt like that was a pretty good feedback on the survey as well.
Well, Dr. Wheeler, I'd like to make one comment in reference to your survey. Thank you for putting the survey out there. It's definitely interesting to find out what the certified staff had to say in reference to some of these questions that we're asking. Certainly glad to see that positive feedback and honest feedback from our teaching staff. So thank you.
Thanks.
Guidance program, average evaluation.
So we moved the podium tonight. It's over here just so there's a little bit of a better camera.
So I'm not gonna read through the whole evaluation, but I did want to highlight a couple things, and then come Heather, yes. And then I've asked my counselors to come and join us so they can talk about some specific things that they're doing in the buildings. And then I know Mr. Maxwell has some exciting news that he wanted to share from today. So I'm just gonna highlight a couple things and then let them talk a little bit. Basically, you can see from the program evaluation that obviously all of our students come in contact with our counselors on a regular basis. We do a lot of classroom lessons going in and providing those with full classrooms, but we also have a lot of small group and individual counseling. And so that first part where it says number of students served, we have about 220 students who are in either a small group or individual counseling with our counseling staff. So I think that's very good. I think that shows really good use of their time. You can see in our goals that the things that we're really trying to focus on is to make sure that we're preparing students for success for college and careers, that we're promoting personal and social development in a safe and inclusive learning environment, and that we're providing students with resources to help them with their understanding of their interests, their career goals, and what their abilities and challenges are. We've done a lot of different things, and so I was trying to kind of outline for you, if you look at the success of the programs based on the data, there are a lot of things going on in our buildings, and so that's why I kind of asked these guys to come up and give us a little bit of information about what they're doing specifically, and that way we have questions so the people who are doing it can give you some information. So you guys want to go ahead and talk about some of the programs that you're doing for middle school?
Sure, of course, we have the mentoring program, which we are going strongly with that. We're starting, I believe, about 15 to 16 students on Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. What else do we have? We have Mafia, which is a really large part of what we do. Our leadership program, we're having Happiness Week actually this week as we speak. Mafia is looking at signs throughout the passing periods, free hugs, free smiles. I don't know what hugs going on, by the way. It's more fist bumps and high fives, finger hugs maybe. small groups. We do more classroom guidance, kind of hard to get students middle school involved in small groups. We have a deployment group going on right now, and we have a grief group kind of off and on, with the Panther group. Team Panther, we're in the planning stage of Team Panther, April 30th. We're going to do a 12-hour event on Saturday, actually, this year. We're hoping to have at least all 50 girls. Will be fabulous in the 8th grade to come join us for all the event at Team Panther. And more, we have lots of busy stuff all day.
So what is Pink Panther?
Great question. Pink Panther is a transition activity for our 8th grade girls into 9th grade. We pair them with upper class girls, and we put them into groups. They have their own little, theme, I guess, for the night, and they work together through different activities that we do for the night. We have Zumba, we have a lip sync contest, we have lots of food, and we have some powerful self-esteem building activities involved. Right?
And at the high school, we're doing the mentoring program. We just did new recruiting this week and picked up another about 15 students for S2S ambassadors. So we started our training this week for those at the high school right now. Ms. Wesley and I both are in the throes of getting students registered for next year's classes and solidifying their programs of study, which is an NCEP 5 thing. So we're really focusing on doing the programs of study and working towards that. We hold quite a bit of individual counseling. We work with our at-risk students. We have a mentoring program where we pair students with the base also up there. At the high school, it's a little bit more difficult because the students are wanting to get to the teachers for after-school tutoring, so we're very selective about who we're pairing with the base, and we do have students there. We have about 12 students that are working in some manner or another with base people there. Right now, we're in the throes of some of our mentors deploying or being on leave, so our numbers are kind of bouncing every week in the program. On another side is an informational side. Today, we had the Central Missouri School Counselors Association Administrators Counselors Breakfast, where we show appreciation to our administrators throughout the central region, which goes all the way from up above Carrollton, all the way down to Butner and Nevada, all the way over to Tantera and over to Lone Jack. That's how big our central region district is. It doesn't lay on top of the principal's district. It's quite a bit, I don't know relationally, but it's a huge district. And out of that district, Miss Amanda Wesley was selected as the secondary school counselor of the year for this whole region. And she's over at school working on her another specialist degree. So she's in class tonight, not able to be here. So those are some of the things that we highlighted there. So we're doing it this week.
And our elementary counselors couldn't be here tonight, but they're doing lots of groups: self-control group, friendship group, social skill group, family change groups, new student groups. They have a lot of groups going on, and those numbers, students kind of change as the needs go. So that's just kind of an overview. Like I said, I wasn't going to read all, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to go back and touch on anything.
I'm probably not in here, I didn't read it in here, but since you have some of the counselors here, it's probably a good time to ask them. When new students come into the district, transfer in with the military or what have you, are they sat down with individually and their transcripts reviewed from their previous district or whatever that they're coming from? And then classes are given as needed, or how does that work when a new student comes into the district? Like steps into the high school, transferring in from another school?
And if we could, that would probably make an entire presentation in itself. So we could, let's answer that, with 5 minutes or less, and then I'd ask you guys to put together a PowerPoint, and we can archive that as well on our website. But it's a great question, and it's an ongoing topic of question from the base during our meetings with them. So I'm glad you asked.
When a student does come into the district, especially at the high school, we take their transcript, especially during the summer, if we can get their transcripts. Then We usually take about 2 days to look through a transcript, make sure we find out what they're doing, what their requirements are. And then when the student comes in to register for classes in the fall, in August, when we set appointments up, we sit there and say, these are the classes you took. These are our graduation requirements here. You're on track to graduate. Let's talk about these classes. Some of the things that was a question here a while back was the interstate compact. When it comes in, we have several students that transfer military from other places, like California graduates at 22 credits. If a senior comes in here in his senior year and he's on track to graduate at 22 in the state of California, he's mathematically disadvantaged graduating here. So with the interstate compact, those things are noted. Ms. Wesley and I work with Ms. Morris to identify those students, and so we create letters saying, these are the requirements in order to graduate here. These are your deficit classes. Maybe they haven't had personal finance or government, or they need one more math class. These are your deficit classes. And what we do is we prepare them to graduate at 22 because they're mathematically challenged to get to 26. So we're not punishing them because of their parents' move. So we work with students, in that. One of the things that just happened, we have a family coming to us from Grand Forks, North Dakota, that are moving in. I've already seen their transcripts. The parents have been in contact with me, sent me an email, and I asked for their transcripts. They've sent me unofficial copies. I says, this is where your students are at here. This is what our graduation is. I've already forwarded our this year's planning guide to them. Please have your son and daughter look at these as they think about their classes. When they come in here in July, the end of July, I'll be in my office. We can sit down and line that up. And I ask them about an S2S, what things are they interested in, what types of sports, what types of activities, clubs. And I'm going to try to pair an S2S student with that individual through email addresses. And I'll do that. I'm not going to arbitrarily give an email address out to somebody. They're going to come to me with their addresses if they want it. Then I pair the students, and then I let them get to talking. I'm not throwing the students' information out nationally. So we do pair that, and the further notice we get, the more we work with them. We just had a couple come from Okinawa. They came here rather sudden. When they showed up, we looked at the information, sat down with their children, said, this is kind of what's going on here. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30. Please bring all your, let me look at your transcripts. And when they walked in the door, we had a plan of attack. This is what we need for the senior that's graduating and the sister that's a ninth grader. Ms. Wesley worked on hers, and then we sat down and was able to develop a 4-year snapshot, and then where they're going, which will kind of massage for the ninth grader as she moves along, but assured the parents that their daughter was on track, this class she needs to have, and then what the rest of her school year would look like.
Is that done with every incoming student?
Every incoming student to the high school either meets with Miss Wesley or I, depending on grade level. I meet with sophomores and seniors this year. Miss Wesley personally meets with every freshman and junior. As next year, she will have sophomores and seniors. We will meet personally with every single student that comes into the high school that transfers in, whether they're military or civilian. Welcome.
Any other questions?
Last month, there was a question about mentoring and how many people were on the standby list for mentoring. Have we resolved that issue?
I think we still have some kids that are on the standby, you're talking about kids on the standby list?
Well,
Students that were
kids that needed mentoring,
Right.
and then we were informed. And I don't know if it was you.
And I know-
don't know if it was informed us or somebody else informed us, there was people from the base that were on the waiting list to be mentors. And,
We just trained 12 about a month ago. About a month ago, we trained 12. If they're all placed yet, I'm not sure. But, as I mentioned earlier, with some of our mentors right now, especially at the high school, we're caught with deployments. And so some of those deployments are short-term.
Ours are all full. We could actually use a few more. To be honest, we have A+ tutors working with some of our students, but some of those A+ tutors are now on track. So this Cox and myself are working with often a table of students, all the mentors are working with their students. So we could use more, but all of ours have been fulfilled, our mentors are
So we've got placements, and my understanding was Leslie's got everybody placed now that we know about. That's trained. There's people that may want to be mentors, but they're not trained. And there's a process that starts with this one way.
I thought we were gonna condense that process a little bit to get these people online faster.
It gets better. So, to get the people online a little bit quicker, the process was changed. So now they basically, if we do have a mentor, I do the background check that we have in place, and then they basically are matched with a mentor, come about 15 minutes early so that they can have their confidentiality briefing and a synopsis, better synopsis from the school on the program and the place to be. So we've had 2 people that went through that process, and I have 1 person that's a returning mentor, so she should do a great get them back in.
Well, the middle school needs more mentors. I don't know where the elementary schools are on that, but it's a good viable program, and we probably need to pursue that.
And I think the efforts are in place, the military, we keep briefing and trying to get people in, but there was a bigger effort to push for the community people. It was supposed to be a joint program. And I believe that they are doing something to work on that, to try to get one.
I haven't seen any advertising or anything locally.
The last we spoke was the Women's Methodist. We spoke to them for the weekend, and they put in a donation for us, which is really appreciated. We give out pamphlets there, putting the points down at that meeting. It's hard for the commitment, for people to come once a week for an hour. We try, we do what you can do.
Well, I'm not sure the local community realizes that we are soliciting volunteers unless we're advertising it somehow.
That might be something we could put on our webpage and try to just kind of get things out there about what we're looking for. So, do that.
Would our counseling group be willing to put together an advertisement for the knob item as well as social media?
Just
We
well,
do have pamphlets, I think, that we give out as well.
Yeah, we keep them in the office and we update like Facebook, we update to try to get the word out that this is what we're doing and, I've kind of talked to some of the student teachers, actually, at the middle school, because one of them actually came and said, you have this going on, we have tons of student teachers, at UCM that would love to get that one-on-one just experience working with a student. Gave him like 10 brochures to take back, haven't heard anything about moving, maybe to kind of catch up and say, hey, if you have anybody, even though you're from UCM, that would be a great experience for them and great just to have for the students.
There's also a community Facebook page that gets the word out to the community, which might be, I'm not saying that all people in the community go to Pink Panther or whatever, but it's a community online. And we have to hit social media in a variety of different ways.
Are there any other questions for the review? Then I recommend the Board of Education for the program evaluations presented.
I make a motion that we approve the guidance counselor program evaluation as presented.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Mr. Pendilly, again, thank you for that question. Thank you, Dean, for the response. And if you guys could work together to anchor that into a PowerPoint or some type of presentation for next month, we would appreciate it. So FEMA has released back in February a new round of funding for pre-disaster mitigation. It's authorized by Section 203 of the Stafford Act. The pre-disaster mitigation program is designed to assist states, territories, Indian tribal governments, and local communities in implementing a sustained pre-disaster natural hazard mitigation program to reduce overall risk to the population and structures from future hazard events, while also reducing reliance on federal funding from future disasters. These are a couple of pictures of a FEMA storm shelter that's down in the Archie School District. These FEMA grants are often used in conjunction with other needs of the district, but first and foremost, they provide a safe place for the students to go should a tornado come through the district while school is in session. There are obviously some requirements on that, but it also is open up to the community at large that's within use of that facility. So the purpose of this agenda item tonight is to make the board aware. There's some information that's been attached on the Hazard Mitigation Program grants fact sheet. It is a price match, $75.25. In order to start the process of investigating whether or not we could receive the funds, the first step would be a notice of intent. The notice of intent does not obligate the district towards any purchase, but it does let FEMA know that it may be something that you're interested in doing. So I wanted to bring that forward to the board. I've been through this process before and have successfully received the approval from FEMA. I worked with a gentleman named Brian Orr from Toth & Associates. He has partnered up with a group called Insight Design Studio. They're out of Kansas City. They were the group that did the football field and stadium over at Sedalia, and they have another number of other local districts out on this side of the metro. But that's the group that I had made initial contact with on that notice of intent for the FEMA storm shelter. So don't know if that's something the board is interested in, but certainly as I look at the two major risks to loss of life, it's going to be active shooter, it's going to be tornado. And we do a lot of, there's been a lot of work over the last 150 years to address the risk of loss of life due to fire, but in reality, those efforts have been very successful because there has not been a loss of life due to fire in a school in, I think it was back in the 50s. So that's an example of how focused efforts can lead to a safer environment for kids and lead to a decrease in the loss of life. And right now, the two biggest threats are most likely active shooter and tornado. So it's something I wanted to put in front of the board. We've talked a little bit about developing a long-range master facility plan, and this would certainly be something that I would encourage the board to consider.
Dr. Willard, for 75%, says 75.5, correct? Is that total cost of the whole project? Some of that is they put a shell up a dome and you're responsible for the rest.
Absolutely. There are very clear limitations that 75-25 match will only go towards the structure and the required components of that safe room. So nothing inside. If it's a fill-in, I've seen them performing arts. I've seen black box performing arts centers. I've seen full-fledged performing arts centers. I've seen gymnasiums. There are lots of classrooms. There are lots of different ways in which that can come in. And then obviously a classroom would be by far the most affordable because you put the furniture in and ceiling and floor and that's it. Whereas gymnasium is a little more expensive. Performing arts center is the most expensive. The black box performing arts type of setting would be least expensive. There's a great example of that up on the Longview campus. That is a great example. But, that would be up to the board and the community as we seek to gather input on a master facility plan over the next 12 to 18 months. That would be something that we would want to certainly consider. Excuse me, that would be something I would recommend that we consider.
But overall, the associated cost with the letter of intent for the district would be zero at this point.
Correct, zero cost at this point. Why are they offering these services? That's part of their business model, and it's been Brian Orr, the guy that we're working with, is the go-to guy in the state.
Well, I make a motion that we move forward with the letter of intent, given the fact that it doesn't cost the district any money at this time.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
And I would like reflected in the minutes exactly what was said, that it costs the district no money at this time on that recommendation. Thank you.
Food service annual review and contract renewal.
So we are in year 4 of a 5-year contract with OPA. Those are annually renewable each year. Attached is a brief financial overview of the food service revenues and expenditure over the last decade. We want to take a quick look at this. And before we even look at this, I want to say that when it comes to food and nutrition, this is obviously something that is very important. What our students put into their bodies is not just into their brains is important, and I want that quality to be absolutely as good as it can be. But we also want to look at the overall cost as it applies to the total cost of running our school district. So the bottom line is not, financially is not the only consideration, but it is something that I feel like needs to be considered. As we look at the last 13 years, I do not have this year's numbers in yet, but this is the food service program. Up to the top, you have the local program, local non-program. You have the state, federal lunch, federal breakfast. Those are revenues. And you can see over the years, those have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 520,000 to 500 and up to a high of 600,000 and 11-12. Revenues versus expenditures, and this is probably the slide that we want to look at most. We've had a total deficit. It actually doesn't show up on this, so I want to change this a little bit. Excuse me. Yeah, my screen changed a little bit. Okay, so. Yeah. Oh. I don't know what I just did, sorry. The total loss of revenue, I'm going to just read this off. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. What I wanted to show at the bottom of this slide is actually, we've had about a $2 million deficit spending cumulative over the last, since 2001 to 2002. There we go. Thank you. So $2,066,020 is the amount of deficit spending that has happened in the food service program since 0102 to the end of 2014-15. So these are the deficit numbers that have been spent. OPA took over the district. That first year we went from 191,000 deficit to 176. That second year, 12-13, we dropped down by over 100,000. Went up slightly the next year, and then last year was our first year that we ran in the black. Again, that's not the only consideration, but it is something that should be considered as we make a decision on that. There are a number of other factors to consider. Number one, and probably the most important, is are the students getting good quality nutrition into their bodies? And in order to do that, the food has to be presented, it has to be edible, it has to be enjoyable to the extent it can be, so that we can feed their brains and their bodies, and we recognize that. Currently, we started a task force earlier last semester. I've kind of placed that on hold for right now with some other priorities ahead of that, but my intent is to continue with full fidelity over the course of the next 6 to 9 months to evaluate that program and bring forward a recommendation to the board on whether or not we continue with OPA, with another food service provider, or if we bring that back in-house. And the recommendation tonight would be reflective of that plan for an evaluation with a recommendation on any change or continuation to occur sometime before this time next school year. There are a number of other priorities going on in the district right now that are requiring a lot of attention, myself and others, and that's a factor as well in regard to the timing of this renewal.
Dr. Wheeler, looking at these, the revenues versus expenditures, yeah, it shows a gain on revenue this year. But, you know, you and I have talked on this once before. I don't believe these numbers to be true because we're not including the maintenance costs that we're doing and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Janitorial costs, custodial costs, supply costs, and everything. We're not including those in this cost. Right. Which I can see the numbers would go down. But once again, like in December, we paid when the kids were out of school for 2.5 weeks, I think it was, we paid full cost for a full month for food costs. I mean, I just don't get this whole open thing. I'm dead set against it, but due to the recent things and everything that we've got going on to try and get things straightened out around here, I would agree that we move this, continue on with this board, or this committee we have, but I think right now it's too short of a time to put something together to be able to put a good decision forth for next school year. So at this time, I would agree that we continue with committee on it and come up with a resolution by the end of next school year.
It's my understanding that hopefully before too long that the regulations are going to ease up a little bit, which will change. I mean, even if it's in-house or we stay with the food contracting service, we still have to meet the guidelines, no matter who's going to do it. So I'm hoping that, you know, with the guidelines, from what I hear, they're going to ease up a little bit on some things.
They, if Trump gets in office, we may be eating pizza and Kool-Aid. You never know. It'll be probably different than Michelle Obama. Bad jokes aside, there are some new regulations that are coming out that are going to add a little more flexibility. It's not going to be like it was prior to the Healthy Hunger Free School Students Act, but there is a little bit of help. And we're going to be looking at that and hopefully making some changes, not waiting, and, you know, it doesn't mean that we won't try to make efforts to continuously improve during this next year. We absolutely will do that, and we've had many discussions about it, but there is going to be a little bit of a relief on those regulations. And it also comes down to care and quality, the components, you know, the food components that go into the meal, but also the care and quality and preparation that goes into that. And I think our staff is keenly aware that, you know, we need to listen, we need to respond, and put our very best efforts forward to improve, you know, the quality of our food.
Well, I think just in this last year, I had the opportunity to go to the taste testing that they had over at the high school. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. And all the kids that were there, I mean, they were very honest with their evaluations of the food. But I think just in this last year that OPA has made a tremendous movement to bring the kids in and get their, you know, to get their input and involve them in the process of their food. Now we just got to get the kids to eat it. But I hear there's some wonderful things going on at the high school. I think it was the high school, she told me, what they're going to be doing. Well, I'll leave that for somebody else to tell, but I think there's some really wonderful things coming down from the high school that the kids are gonna like, so.
Well, I had an opportunity to eat at the base school last week. I sat across from a whole row of little girls. They all had their own lunch boxes. I listened to what every one of those little girls had to say, and they asked me, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm a school board member, and I'm here to help." So, most of the people in this crowd know what I probably think of VOPA, and moving forward, I know the situation we're in. We do have time constraints on stuff we need to get fixed in a reasonable amount of time. But I strongly urge anybody to get out there into these schools and eat and listen to these kids and take a look around these lunchrooms and see how many kids are participating in this lunch program. I do know we spend a huge amount of money on the lunch program, but we also have half the kids eating that we used to probably have. We're serving half the food, and we've got half the staff. So, and a great portion of that that's put on those kids' plate goes in the trash. I do know that the OPA folks and the ladies in the kitchen and stuff are all trying to move forward and make as much progress as possible and better what's put on those plates for those kids. But a lot of it's got to do with what's going on in today's world and what we're told how to prepare that food and everything else. Let's just hope that they do lapse some of those regulations and things will get better.
Well, my understanding, the pasta is gonna be looking white instead of
Good,
brown.
good. I'm looking forward to it. If I eat there too. I go into schools and eat just to find out what's going on.
Okay, so we need a motion to approval of the statute and contract right now.
I make a motion to approve the OPA contract for 1 year.
I second the motion to approve the open contract for 1 year at Dr. Wheeler's recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't, I.
3 ayes and 2.
Did you abstain?
Oh, any against,
No, I'm just abstaining.
abstaining, 2 abstains.
Yes.
So the vote on that will be 3-0-2. And I want to thank the board sincerely for, I know that was an emotionally charged motion. And I want to thank you for the logic that went into that. It is very much appreciated and will be returned as we go through this evaluation process. So thank you.
Agricultural and engineering services.
So
Architectural, not agricultural. I see what you said back there.
pursuant to board policy FEB, the board will select qualified firms and negotiate contracts for architectural, engineering, and land surveying services for various building projects in the school district when such services are required. Selection shall be made on the basis of demonstrated competence and qualification for the types of services specified by the district at fair and reasonable prices. As the board is aware, we have immediate needs for architectural engineering services relating to foundation settlement and other issues at Whiteman Elementary. This RFQ will allow for selection of a firm to guide the district in addressing these issues. And attached is the RFQ, which would be put out immediately, and we would hope to have that turned around in time for a recommendation at the next board meeting. Again, this does not obligate the district to any expenditures, but it will advise the district in addressing any needs that may be required at Whiteman Elementary. That could also lead into anything that could come about at the direction of the board for any other projects in the district. One thing that I want to point out, the difference between a request for qualification and a request for proposal. And a request for proposal, in publishing that, we expect to get back in that response the hard cost, the exact cost for what we are requesting. In a request for qualification, those prices are not included in that. Those are included once the firm is selected based on their qualifications. Then the fee is negotiated directly with the board. If the board and that firm do not come to an agreement and come to terms, then that firm can be rejected and you can move on to the next firm. And that's the legal statutory process that has to be followed for architectural and community services.
I make a motion to publish the RFQ for aid services as presented. Aye.
Project Lead the Way, we're not old business.
So we're going to watch a video first, and then just a quick overview, and then I'll invite Ms. Morse and Ms. Scarborough to come up and present briefly on Project Lead the Way.
Maybe it goes like this from far away. Oh, might be a lever. I get it.
All of these are connected, and then it connects to the batteries.
I like working on robotics and using mechanical arms and robotics and effects all at the same time, trying to talk together.
Learning problem-solving skills that Project Lead the Way curriculum teaches you is going to help you in whatever field that you go through.
You're working on something huge and you're making a huge impact.
You walk into a PLW classroom, what you find is tremendous excitement, passion, not only from the teachers, but from students.
Project Lead the Way is great in that there's so much hands-on. Every activity we do gives the kids the chance to have a more in-depth understanding.
With like your biology class, you kind of hit certain points, but then with the biomedical classes, you go more in depth with diseases and heart functions and body functions.
Project Lead the Way has 5 programs, all of which are designed to prepare students for post-secondary education and careers in the global economy. Launch is for students in kindergarten through 5th grade, designed to capture their interest in and spark a lifelong passion for math and science. Our Gateway program for students in 6th through 8th grade is a series of 9-week units that continues to engage students' natural curiosity and problem solving and shows them the relevancy of math and science in their lives. And we have 3 high school programs. The engineering program is a series of full-year courses that gives students a deeper look at the engineering design process and teaches them to think critically, solve problems, and to collaborate. In our biomedical science program, students explore human medicine, public health, human body systems, and medical careers. And finally, our computer science program, which is designed to build student interest and engagement in computer science, develop computational thinking skills, and explore topics like programming, data mining, and cybersecurity. When we think of the STEM pipeline, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, it's clear across our nation that we have a shortage.
This is where the jobs are. This is where the future is. There's a national interest. There's a national security interest. There's just a ton of reasons to get better at science, technology, and engineering.
We want students to understand that when they leave high school or they go into college or post-secondary education, they go to the workplace, they're not going to find themselves isolated and as single problem solvers, but rather as group problem solvers.
They're not given a textbook answer. There's not a textbook lab to follow. They really have to think of their own problems and their own solutions.
We learned how to calculate the stress throughout every part of a bridge. That's how we determined how to build our bridge. We knew we had to put support right here, so that they didn't collapse right away.
We have to think differently about the way we engage students. So we spend a lot of time training teachers, helping them learn to teach differently.
We have teachers that go to summer training every year and they take the Project Lead the Way courses. When they come back to us, they're teaching us current stuff that's in the field today.
This is a big component of the course, working through this and practicing it, asking each other questions and talking through it. Hopefully we're going over questions the students will have.
Our students do better, they persist, they outperform, and most importantly, they get excited about learning.
All of our students who have participated in Project Lead the Way, their tests on ACT are through the roof.
It's also going to help them perform better in college and later in life because you're introducing skills that will be beneficial to them.
I already know that when I go into college, I want to jump right into engineering. I definitely feel like being exposed to it for 4 years, I can't go a year without it.
Education is complex. That's why our partners are so important. our university partners in helping with outreach and professional development of teachers, engaging with our students, recruiting our students, but also all of our corporate partners. And we have both national partners and partners across America that understand the importance of this work, but have also recognized how important Project Lead the Way is to America's economy and improving educational outcomes for all students.
And Project Lead the Way combines Cargill's philanthropy with the active volunteerism of our employees in a number of locations. So in that regard, I get very excited by the way in which Project Lead the Way carries out its work.
The students coming through our program have developed critical skills and knowledge that are highly desirable in the marketplace. So that's why universities and companies are recruiting our students.
They're more successful. It works. It's the best package I've ever seen.
Project Lead the Way has influenced me because if I would have never taken classes like this, I would have never had those options for me. I would have never had that experience.
Taking these type of courses is a huge advantage.
I'm so thankful for having such a good program like this.
I was so happy that I found PLCW.
Now, it's definitely one of the things I'm thinking about doing as a career because I really like this class and it's a lot of fun.
It's definitely something we should take. It's a life-changing experience.
Okay, and at this time, if we could have Ms. Carver and Ms. Morris come up and speak with us about Project Lead the Way. And I would invite the board to present any questions you may have.
I want to start out, first of all, by maybe clarifying some misunderstanding that I think might be out there. First of all, we offer the engineering course only in high school. We don't offer the biomedical or the other programs that they were talking about. For a Project Lead the Way engineering teacher to be certified, they have to first be have the industrial arts certification. So our Project Lead the Way teachers are industrial arts teachers first, okay? And then on top of that, they get Project Lead the Way certification. So what is exciting about that, and I've talked to Mr. Avery extensively, I've talked to Mr. Adams a little bit about that, but what's exciting about that is it lets our kids in the industrial arts program or in the engineering programs, either way they choose to go, they have that application within the shop of what they're doing. So they've got that hands-on, they've got the design piece, and then within that design piece, then they get to build whatever it is that they're creating. I know that, you know, if my dad were here, he would tell you that to go out into the field and work, he was a plumber. And to go out into the field and work, you have to have a very mechanical mind. You have to understand how things go together, how they operate, how they're designed, and how all that fits and works together. It's not good enough just to design when you don't know the application of that. And so that's what this class does for our kids. It gives them the design opportunities and then the application to see, does this really work? Does this work the way that I designed it to work, or does it not? Then I go back and I redraw and I reprogram and I figure all of that stuff out hands-on. So that's kind of an overall synopsis of what this program does for our kids. Within the high school, we still offer 4 options for just industrial arts, and then we offer 4 courses for the Project Lead the Way. So then depending on what the requests are by the students, that's how we fill those courses. Obviously, if my teacher at high school can only teach 6 classes, and that's 80 by anybody's calculations, you know that doesn't work. So depending on the requests that we have from the kids, that's what courses that we fill with that industrial arts teacher. Also, something very exciting, on March 31st, when we come back from spring break, we are going through our national certification process. So we will have people from Project Lead the Way coming in, ensuring and making sure that we are operating the program as it's meant to be operated. And I absolutely expect that soon to be put on approval for our program as Mr. Avery is preparing for that. Anything additional?
No, at the middle school, we had Mr. Avery in the morning, so 2nd and 3rd hours. We did, first semester was Gateway to Engineering, like introductory engineering class, and then right now they're in robotics. So sometime you can come by and see, because it provides kids an opportunity. Right now they're getting ready to have drag car racing competitions, and they have to put it all together, plus program a motor with the computer and put it all together. And so they're working together. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just here's your stuff, how are you gonna fix, or make this car work? And then, of course, it's a competition to see who's, car will go the fastest. And then we offer advanced building and then 3 sections of industrial technology. Mr. Levens teaches now, Mr. Avery will do that next year. So there is a balance of kids that just want to learn how to build stuff, and there's kids that want to go more the engineering route. So it does provide a lot of different students with a lot of different opportunities, which is very good. The kids that are in those classes really benefit from those who can take some of those skills and apply them in all the other classes.
And as Mr. Avery told me just the other day, he said, in all the years I've taught Project Lead the Way, I've had far more kids go out into the field than to go into engineering. However, those kids who are going out into the field, they are so much more prepared, as I said, to understand that mechanical piece of why it works and how it works and what would make a better situation here. So it serves both of our kids.
Well, the way it's set up, there's a lot of girls involved in it also.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see girls and boys collaborating on stuff that was predominantly, a male thing that you think that they're interested in. So it's cool that they're applying some of those things, they're giving that opportunity to do it in a non-threatening way, and having a lot of success. You have any questions?
Yes, the one thing my concern was originally on this whole thing was that the industrial technology was going to go away. Because if your father was here, I would shake his hand and agree wholeheartedly with him. Because you can't build a bridge without cutting a board. You have to learn how to use the equipment just as well as you know how to put it together. And that was my big concern, that we were going to get rid of industrial technologies, and I was not on board with that.
No, absolutely not.
As long as that program stays along with the Project Lead the Way, I wholeheartedly support it.
And as a matter of fact, that was a pretty major part of our interview process, was to make sure that the person that we hired was absolutely on board with that philosophy. Because we absolutely agree with that.
Thank you.
So have we also used STEAM money for part of this as well?
We used a lot of STEAM money to supply that shop over there with many of the amazing, I don't know if you've been over there to see some of the amazing pieces of equipment that are there, but because of that STEAM money, we were able to outfit quite an impressive shop.
Is there any thought about adding the bio part to it, maybe later?
That's always an option and always an opening. And another thing about Project Lead the Way that I think a lot of people don't understand, you also have the opportunity to get dual credit through that as well. So that's another opportunity for our kids to gain exposure to advanced courses. It's exciting opportunities for our kids.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. Avery and Mr. Blevins for everything they do for our kids and young men and women. We're blessed to have them. Thank you.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. One of the, we've been requested, it had been requested to have our Project Lead the Way students do a presentation this evening, and because of their national competition, that's actually going to happen next month. But we do, I want to apologize, we do have our students from our ag program, and typically I would have you guys up first. We've integrated you into this agenda item. I apologize for the wait, but if you guys can come on up, they graciously, Sloan and Hebrew graciously offered to present in the place of Project Lead the Way under our career ed topics. So we have your PowerPoint queued, and you guys, we had the lights off and everything. Did you guys stay awake back there? Thank you guys very much, and please come forward. Good evening.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Brandon Carlisle. I'm a junior at Mount Nusk High School. This is my third year in the agricultural education program. I'm just happen to be president of our athletic program this year. Thank you for this amazing opportunity for letting us come in and speak to you tonight. And sorry about us being a little late. We got a little mixed up on our times. The Non-Monster High School Agricultural Education Program has been very busy over the past year. We have participated in many activities with the state, area, and within the community. In our agricultural program, there are 3 areas of focus: classroom instruction, SAE, and National FFA organization. These 3 areas coincide with each other, and one division cannot exist without the other 2. Students enrolled in the non-monster agricultural education department are exposed to many different career opportunities that will prepare them for the future careers in the agricultural industry. Within the program, students have access to information from many different agricultural sectors, including agricultural processing and marketing, agricultural supplies and services, forestry, horticulture, production agriculture, and natural resources. With 15% of the total population working in agriculture, it is important for non-master students to build a foundation in agricultural knowledge in order for them to gain the skills necessary to become successful in their fields.
Hello, my name is Abby Simon, and I am a sophomore at Non-Master High School. I am the vice president of the Non-Master FFA chapter, and I am currently enrolled in agriculture science 2. There are 5 courses of agriculture that our program offers at our school. There's Introduction to Agriculture, Greenhouse Operations and Management, Personal Finance and Agribusiness, Advanced Animal Science, and Urban Landscaping. Not only does agriculture focus on these courses, but we also have contests we focus on towards the end of the year called CDEs, which are career development events, and they're also called IRCs, which are industry recognized credentials. These career development events have a wide range topic, including poultry, entomology, and my team, which is agronomy. These contests not only give students an opportunity to learn a new topic they probably didn't know about before, but also give them basic testing skills and inform students about different career opportunities within the agriculture industry. Agriculture is by far one of the most hands-on classes that not only teaches you about a wide range of agricultural topics, but gives you the necessary skills to be successful.
Hello, my name is Dalen Owens, and I'm a junior at Kenyon and Joseph. I have been in the agricultural program for 3 years now. FFA is an intercurricular student organization for those interested in agriculture and leadership. FFA makes a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for career leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education. There are a lot of different areas in FFA. My personal favorite is the development of leadership skills for all members. FFA offers many opportunities to develop their leadership skill through speaking contests, conventions, conferences, and camps. These opportunities allow students to learn to take pride in themselves and be positive role models, and also meet and interact with FFA members across the country. Another area FFA focuses on is career exploration for students. Our FFA members participate in career fairs, college visits, and networking with agricultural leaders. FFA is great for preparing students for what's going to happen after high school and what career path fits them the best. For example, last summer, several of our members got to visit and meet with the governor of Missouri and the Missouri Director of Agriculture at the Missouri State Fairgrounds. FFA is also great for giving scholarship opportunities to help students through college. Community service is a big area for our chapter. We try to do as much as we can for our community. Last semester, we did the Veterans Day flag sale where we sold flags and we donate all the earnings to a Veterans Outdoors Unit. FFA has adopted a highway so we can keep our town looking clean. We co-host Pennies for Panthers where the whole school donates money and the money goes to a member in our district that is having hard times. FFA is a huge deal to the non-Knoxville School District because it holds so many opportunities for students to develop and grow into positive leaders.
Hello, I'm Levi Corbett, and I'm currently an Area 7 officer. I've been enrolled in the Ag program here in Knoxville for the past 3 years. I previously took an Ag 1 and Ag 2, and I'm currently enrolled in the greenhouse class. SAEs, or Supervised Agricultural Experiences, are a requirement within these classes for every student. Through their involvement in the SAE program, students are able to consider multiple careers and occupations. learn expected workplace behavior, develop specific skills within the industry, and are given opportunities to apply academic and occupational skills in the workplace or a simulated workplace environment. Through these strategies, students learn how to apply what they're learning in the classroom as they prepare to transition into the world of college and career opportunities. There are many types of SAE projects: ownership and entrepreneurship placement. Examples of an ownership entrepreneurship projects are raising livestock or owning your own landscaping business. Examples of a placement SAE are working for the commissary on base or working at your local MFA. Students can also choose to do their SAE on so many other areas like wildlife management, beekeeping, metal fabrication, fishing, and hunting. You can choose to do anything you like to do as long as it relates to the agricultural industry and interests you.
Hello, my name is Clay Evers. I'm a sophomore at Monmouth High School. This is my first year in agriculture education, but I'm currently the Green Hand president. Being in ag class has benefited me personally by helping me with my public speaking skills, meeting new people, and getting opportunities to help develop my future career. For example, I want to be a welder at MWI, which is Missouri Welding Institute, and the next year I get to tour the campus and learn more about the soil. Agriculture education has benefited the city of Monmouth by helping Monmouth students prepare for the future. Explore career options that are right for you and develop an appreciation and understanding for the agriculture industry. We thank you for giving us this opportunity to present how agriculture education is beneficial to non-Knoxville community. Are there any questions?
First of all, nicely done, guys.
I have some questions, I don't know if they're necessarily for you or for your instructor.
Put her out on stage, and if you guys can hang out afterwards for a quick group picture, that would be great.
My question to you is, we've done away with the FFA program at the middle school. And our numbers are down in the FFA program in the high school. Are there any plans in the future to make this program more bigger or for our whole community?
Yes, definitely. We actually are in the works to put me back in the middle school next year with 2 classes in the afternoon. So hopefully that will help spark some interest in our program, get kids at a younger age, and then carry over into the high school through that program.
And what are we going to do to increase our numbers in high school?
We have been offering several different options for courses. We have expanded course offerings. We now offer the personal finance class, but it is an agricultural based class. So we deal with ag examples, focus on agribusiness issues. So that is there to spark interest in students to join the program. If I can get them in a class, I can usually spark their interest in FFA and the SAE project and everything as well. So with the course offerings and the different things that we have been working on, we're hoping to kind of get some more of those student populations into classes and help us grow that way.
Well, it looks like you got some good spokespeople right there.
Definitely very proud, very proud.
Ms. Longer, last year, my son, Joseph, he took a hunter's education class that you all put forth, and I just want to tell you thank you. It was a very good class. I just took out a lot out of that for your kids. Maybe we could possibly look at that sometime later.
For sure, definitely up middle school again next year. Next year, we're looking to come back to middle school, which I'm pretty sure it will be, yes. I'll be doing under safety again for the classes, so.
Thank you all, and great job.
I just want to thank young ladies, young men. It takes a lot of guts to get up there and stand in front of people and tell what you know, and I think you all did a very excellent job with what you said. And my hat's off to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys can hold on one more second, I usually don't chime in, but this is something, this is a program that has had my full support in my years as superintendent. I added the program back into our curriculum in my last school district. It was cut in the 50s with the Sputnik science technology movement. We see, we see these things cycle, and we're back in that type of environment right now. Both are important. When it comes to everything around us, it's either grown or it's mined. That's where it starts, period. And what your program represents is important. It always has been, it always will be, and it will become increasingly important. So my district before that, I expanded the program from 1 person to 2. So I'm saying that to say that you have my full commitment, and I also want to challenge each of you. I've seen regional presentations. You guys did an exceptional job tonight. I see the leadership in each of you. I want to challenge you. It's your time right now to grow this program, to put forth your best efforts to meet the commitments that are in your motto and your preamble. So I'm hearing a board that's supportive of that, and the ball's in your court, and we're here to help you, but keep up the good work. So, thank you. And we want one more picture out there with your sponsor. Instructor, excuse me. Now you guys can look up and got it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice job.
Policy HH2. Negotiation representation.
Yes. I have to figure out what I'm doing on my PowerPoint, so excuse me again.
PowerPoint does it automatically.
It does, okay.
That's the desktop.
Got it. So policy HH2, this is a third reading on this policy. We did a first reading. We received feedback from MSTA, BNAT, as well as our district legal counsel. We did a second reading last month. This is the third reading. Between the second and third reading, we did not have any additional input. And with that said, I recommend that the policy be approved as presented. And for those that have not attended the last couple of meetings, this involves teacher representatives and the negotiation process.
I make a motion that we approve HH2 as presented.
A second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Had there, I was hoping to be able for discussion, but had I didn't catch if you said that the teachers had read this, and there was Mountain Officer Association teachers had read this and agreed with it also, and had gone the whole gamut.
Well, what we've done, we did the first reading 2 months ago. We did receive feedback from the teachers union. They brought, or teacher representation, we brought those forward to our district legal counsel. Those were taken into consideration. There were some revisions made, and those were brought forward in the second reading last month. And then between last month's meeting and this month, there was another call last month for input, and none was received. So we feel like we've done some due diligence. Feedback from our attorneys that isn't necessarily listed in writing is that there comes a certain point when you override policies where you find out that you've burdened yourself beyond what's reasonable. And they felt like with some of the questions that were being brought up, that we could have been to that point. So we felt like the revisions did meet the intent of the revision, which was to allow in writing a more specific and clear mechanism for the teachers to decertify the union and go back to no union representation should they choose to do that. And I believe we've met that goal. Good. Thank you.
Request for proposal, district government services.
Again, this is an old business item. Last month, we brought in front of the board an RFP for district beverage services. The last 5-year contract ran out last fall, and the board asked for some more input. There's a number of items that have been provided. We have revenue from sales at the district level. We have revenues from sales at the middle school level. We have an overview of what happens on our accounts at the high school. We have the 2010 to 2015 beverage contract that just expired. You can see the terms of that contract, and then we have our new RFP for beverage services. One of the only major change from last month is the last RFP last month had in it that the Coke distributor would stock our vending machines and pull the money and deliver that to the school. And that was a misprint and misunderstanding on my part. Our district custodians do take care of that. So that revision has been made. The terms of the contract, really the revenues to the district comes from the rebate that's embedded in that contract, which is $3 per case, as well as an annual sponsorship contribution of $3,000 that happened annually over the 5-year term of that contract. So we will, to match, we'd be looking at 15 grand plus the $3 rebate per case purchased. I don't know that we'll get that because the game has changed significantly in the last 6 years, but at least it gives us a starting point to negotiate from.
So we're looking for approval to go ahead and send this out to bids.
Yes. Correct. So it would be a motion to publish.
Motion to go ahead and do the questions for the discussion on this.
Moving forward, I make a motion that we approve that we approve the RFP proposal to move forward in the solicitation for prime vendor for Coca-Cola and Pepsi products.
Need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll revise this. I had the agenda type wrong, so I'll make that revision so that it's accurately reflects that was an action item.
Yes. Thank you, Dr.
I need to excuse myself from each person in the meeting, so I have to take over.
Okay, the next item under old business is prime vendor hardware RFP.
Thank you. So President Matthews has recused herself from this conversation because it could potentially affect her as a local business owner. And I don't want to belabor this beyond what needs to be. This is an old agenda item that's been discussed at length in prior meetings. The last time it was discussed, the board asked that we pass this in front of our attorneys, make sure that we've met the requirements of policy and law in moving forward with this, and we have done so. The feedback has been included from Steve Book at GM School Law, which is the district's legal counsel. They have reviewed that RFP and endorsed that to move forward with these 6 highlighted considerations. Number 1, provide proper notice of the request for proposals to the general public. The RFP will be published in the Novi, the Sedalia, and the Warrensburg papers. Number 2, the board member with an interest in the bid must submit written notice to the board secretary outlining their interest in the decision. That's good for a couple of reasons. It gives us notice, but it also allows us the opportunity, as we did tonight, to recuse that board member from discussions leading to a decision. Number 3, the board secretary will record the statement of interest in the meeting minutes. Number 4, the board member will not participate in discussions regarding any of the submitted proposals. Number 5, the board member will not vote on any of the proposals. And number 6, the board member's bid will only be accepted if it is the lowest bid received. And I want to comment on that in a little further detail. Policy in many cases will say the best or lowest or the best qualified. And it uses the term best with some kind of attachment. In this case, because it involves a member of the board, it absolutely has to be the lowest bid. So I want to differentiate that in this case, it has to be the lowest. In other cases, it can be the lowest or best. So that's important. That lets us know the requirement. Should Mrs. Matthews submit a bid, and should the board be considering that? Also, I want to make a couple other comments. In our last discussion of this item, we talked about a notary being present to notarize those bids as they're received. Those are going to the board secretary, Mrs. Huntsman. We will have a notary present to notarize those bids as they are received so that we can further provide an effort of transparency and documentation of what and when is received from vendors. In addition, the prior RFP that was brought forward had a cost plus, where the vendor would present their cost and then add on any additional percent to get the total cost of the products in the market basket. It was suggested that we go a cost minus percent. So what we're doing is we've revised that to be a retail cost in the market basket minus any percent, and then that would give the cost of the items. And the other issue that was up for discussion was the proximity factor, because of the time spent that could be traveled. Of course, the bid will call for certain items to be shipped and delivered to the district, but there are also cases where you're on the job and you have to have a part right then and you don't have it. So we've added in that market basket what we're calling a proximity factor, and that's going to be calculated by the round trip distance from the maintenance facility to the closest point of sale for the responding vendor and back to the district. So we'll have a round trip mileage, and we'll multiply that by the federal reimbursement rate to get a mileage factor. And then we're also going to take the travel time from that facility to the vendor and back. We're going to multiply that by the total cost of employment for the individual making that trip, and we're going to get a time factor, and then we're going to add the mileage and the time in together to get the proximity factor. So we'll have the cost, we'll have the percent markup, we'll have the market basket total, we'll have the proximity cost, and those are the criteria in terms of the financial decision that will be taken into consideration in making that bid. So we've met all requirements set forth by the board. We vetted this with our school attorney. This is in alignment with the policy, and as such, I recommend it for approval for publication by the board.
I make a motion that we approve the RFP for prime vendor for hardware maintenance supplies.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you. So next up, we have Mrs. Morse to speak with the group as they're coming back in on Teaching and Learning Committee, the teacher evaluation instrumentation recommendation. I wish we had 85% of our teachers here for this, but I'm sure they're watching from home.
I'm sure they are. So I just wanted to kind of refresh your memory on how this process got started in the first place. As we started our Teaching and Learning Committee, we did not start it with the intention of coming up with a new evaluation tool. We started that meeting actually saying nothing is off the table. Whatever are our concerns need to be brought to the table. Let's address the elephants in the room, whatever it is that we need to address to be productive and move forward, let's do that. And so as we met together that first meeting, we had posted paper, we had paper up along the walls. We went through, we just threw out concerns that we knew were issues. We voted on those concerns and we came up with our top issues that we wanted to address. And I think those were in your board packet in the order of importance. And so assessment one was actually the first on our list, which was a surprise to me because I didn't think that that would be the top of the list. We addressed that, and then our evaluation was second on the list. And everything involved in that evaluation. We had our, as was reflected in the survey, we knew that the evaluation as a total package was a concern. We knew that the unit of instruction was concerned, and we knew that the professional development plan was concerned, all of those components. And so we addressed each of those as we started looking through a new evaluation tool. And we knew that NEE was just a tool. We know that Missouri has certain requirements as is listed right up there. And so we wanted to make sure that whatever tool that we used would allow us to address those requirements. And so as we worked down through, we looked at how can we meet those requirements and then what would be best for Knob-Noster to continue to grow and improve. And because we know when we grow and improve, it's just better for our kids, and that's what we're all here for. And so we looked at all of those pieces. We decided what do we want in an evaluation tool in Knob-Noster, and then based on that, we looked at the different tools that are available to us. And so from that, we decided that the component from Talent Ed would fit that requirement very nicely. It does have some pieces that we can use, or we can absolutely develop our own. So it's not a product driven. NEE is a product driven. It says this is what you will use and good luck. Not necessarily just good luck. They provide us with product training as well. But we don't have the opportunity to go in and change those forms to meet our specific needs. We tried to do that kind of on our own with our unit of instruction this year, and it still was amazingly confusing, and we didn't hit the goals that we wanted to, trying to tweak our own unit of instruction. So looking at Talent Ed, we have the ability to meet the state requirements. We have the ability to meet all of the possibilities for what we would like to see in an evaluation system for Knob-Noster. And so that is what we are requesting to be able to use for next year with our evaluation system. With that, we would like to, upon board approval, we want to get immediately started this spring and start on those professional development plans so that we are ready to hit the ground running in September or August actually, rather than spring when at the last minute trying to come up with these days when we're already trying to start school. Do you guys have any questions for me?
What would we come up with? If it's like teacher developed or driven, is it gonna be the committee that's gonna come up with?
What I would like to do, number one, so that we can get, because we gotta get moving on it pretty quickly, is for the administrators to kind of pull our thoughts together and then run that by the committee again. We could spend a lot of time and not utilize that time effectively if we don't do it that way. So that's what our goals are at this point in time. We really already looked through those pieces, and we think that those pieces that are in place would absolutely meet our needs. But if we would like to maybe tweak some things, this is going to be a work in progress. There's no doubt anytime you use a new tool, it's going to be a work in progress. So we may very well get halfway through the year next year and think, oh, this is not working the way we thought it was going to, and we have the ability to go in and immediately make those changes, which is very nice.
What is the benefit over this Talent Ed as opposed to a locally developed? You already have the ground rules that the state is giving you. So what is the benefit of this over developing a local evaluation system?
And Shelby can probably speak a little bit more to that more effectively than I can, even because you've used it. And Ms. Mellon can as well, so.
Well, the whole purpose of this is like a gathering place of information, so you would have a file for every one of your teachers. So could you develop something? Possibly, but the depth of information that you have to keep in track is so great, and then having it all in one place. So if Connie and I share a teacher, then she and I can both access it, we can both do observations, we can evaluate that teacher, and it can be present. What's also nice about it is that you can also evaluate coaches, because right now they're all done by hand. You can do all support staff, and everything is just a holding place for that to gather information. But what's also nice about Talent Ed is they do tons of school districts across the United States. And so we have access to their banks of forms and information and processes on how they do things. So we can tap into some of that and tweak it so it meets our needs. And that's what makes it a nice holding place for all of our information.
And I would say that while it seems in theory like that would be a simple process, there's an amazing amount of technical support that goes into a system like this. And so something that we wouldn't be able to do ourselves.
Okay, now what is just skim right across the top of it, what is the difference between the NEE and this Talent Ed? That we aren't gonna have somebody come back in 8 months from now and go, I just can't.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
We will have that. It's guaranteed that we will have that, but you're going to have that with any evaluation tool. And we are committed, our teachers have spoken very loudly on some key items, and we've listened. We're going to approach this model, and this approach, we're going to focus on a better implementation. We're going to focus on being more respectful of our teachers' time with some of the burdens that were on them for the unit of instruction. We're going to try to make sure that this is a robust, effective tool for teacher improvement and improvement in student learning. We're going to do so with a common sense approach, and it's going to be, again, far more respectful of the teacher's time. But even in doing that, I can tell you, at the end of the day, this is how teachers are evaluated. So there will be some that say, you know, doggone it, we don't want to be evaluated. And to that, I would say, what's the real key of evaluation? You know, the key of evaluation is to protect our teachers, to demonstrate what they're doing and their efforts to go into student achievement. Because at the end of the day, student achievement, in all of our efforts, it can't be controlled because there are dynamics in student outcomes that can't be controlled. We can influence it, but we can't control it. In the absence of an evaluation model, the only way that we can make reemployment decisions for teachers is based on summated student outcomes on the state test. So this model is for growth. It's for providing constructive feedback on teachers to get better. And at the end of the day, influencing that student outcome, that it diversifies how we evaluate for reemployment and how we work to grow. So we, you know, I feel good about it. I think our teachers should feel good about it, and we're together. So.
And what's nice, what's nice about this model is it's individualized. With me, everyone was working on the same thing. So it was, instead of us focusing on individual teacher growth, it was all of us, okay, we're gonna work on these things, how are we growing? So what my needs are as a teacher and what my needs might be, that's something that's individualized, set up in each person's file within this program. So truly focus on people.
With all respect, with everything you said, you know, about teacher taking care of teacher time and all that, which I agree 100%. But what makes this taste better? What is better about this program than the last program?
I think they just said you can individualize it.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's one thing. I mean,
Sure,
what
find
is,
the classified staff, multi-evaluated, would need to be offered.
So,
Is that right?
Right, and you also have like PDP was a labor-intensive professional development plan. With Talent Ed, there's 2 goals that everybody works on. These are their steps that they're gonna make, and this is how they prove it, rather than spending hours on putting this huge document together. Unit of instruction is replaced with student learning outcomes that we have based on objectives that we set in our classrooms and how well the students achieve throughout the year. So it's already what we're doing. It just makes so much more sense to take what we're doing already and apply it for evaluation, rather than doing what we're doing, having an evaluation, and then doing all this stuff to prove that we're good teachers.
so I mean, a couple more points. What they said, the other part is that the content is better, the structure is better, but we have more confidence in the network itself, in the software. We went through a reboot this year that was very cumbersome, and Talent Ed has proven to be very reliable. We use them for our recruit and hire. I've used them prior. The Scarborough's used them higher. It's a product that typically when products are bought out, they're doing something right. And this group was just bought out by People Admin, and we feel very confident in the software and in the network that comes along with this program. And last but not least, we do have some increased costs this year with getting it booted, but in the long run, in years 2 and beyond, it's about $2,000 a year less than what we're spending on me.
I don't discount what you're saying, Dr. Wheeler, in reference to, you definitely are going to have some people that may not be happy with it. What I would like to know is the overall general consensus from teachers, would they be happy with it? You know,
That is important. We did present this to all of our teachers.
one thing that I wasn't aware of when I bought off on me in the past and raised my hand and made that decision was the impact on what it was going to do to the teachers and the number of negative phone calls or emails that I received in them going from evaluations of twice a year to every 30 days and possibly more. I certainly don't want to get back into that same situation where we're working against our teachers and not working for our teachers. So, but it sounds to me like you all have used this in the past, done your homework, you know what we're getting into. But like I said, I feel like I failed when I raised my hand in a vote for me in the past, and only to find out that I was gonna be bombarded with phone calls and negative feedback on what it was doing to make our teachers nervous in the classrooms and everything else.
As you can see, there's a strong, we feel, the board, I think, feels like we're being tossed back and forth here. You know, in one breath, we're being told need is the best. Now we're being told that this is the best.
And I completely understand that. And that's why we took so much time and so much care to vet this through our teachers. And then this wasn't just, it started, the initial concepts and ideas started with a small group of teachers because we know with 115 teachers, you're not going to get very much accomplished. So we started that process with that small group, but then we vetted it out to every one of our teachers. And so I'm very confident this is going to get
Well, Ms.
positive.
Matthews, a clear indication that need wasn't working is our survey from our teachers coming up at what, 71.1%? As far as a negative portion of what they thought of me. So, you know, it's time for that to go and we need to move forward in a better direction.
Well, I also see, Mr. Murphy, that this focus group met in October 29th of 2015. So I'm sure you understand my concern
Oh, yeah.
between the focus group then and now.
But we were in the thick of need then, that's for sure.
Well, that's right.
Let me know how it goes, because we use need. We do, but we use Talanet too for other things. I didn't have no idea they had an evaluation system.
So they have recruit and hire, they have perform, and they have records. And then I see that they also they have also added a fourth product called, I think it's pre-recruit. So it's a good suite of products. We're already using recruit and hire. It just made logical sense to, you know, that's another indicator that it makes sense. So.
Do you know how long they use me?
This is the point here.
Well, I think now I think that this shows that this is what the teachers want, the majority of the teachers want. And I think that was different than it was last time, saying this is what you're going to use instead of saying, here's what we can use, what do you think?
This is a very collaborative effort between administration and teachers. There's no doubt about that.
And as administrators, you think at a building level for you all that it's gonna work good. Because that's where really.
And I also know that it falls on us to make sure that we communicate it effectively, that we line it out exactly what the expectations are, how to use it, why we're using it, just so everyone knows that there's a reason behind it.
We're already in the works of coming up with a process of how we will roll that out and present that to teachers. So it won't just be thrown out in the fall.
Good, thank you.
Keep us updated. I'm interested.
Well, I make a motion that we adopt a talent ed as presented. And I also make a motion that we discontinue the use of me at this time.
That's seconded.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Guys, thank you for that, and to Ms. Scarborough, Ms. Morris, the admin team, the teachers, everyone that took a lot of time over the last 4 to 6 months to bring forward that recommendation. We appreciate it, and we look forward to improvement and how we go about the job of evaluating our teachers and growing them, and ultimately improving student instruction. It won't be perfect off the boot up, but we're going to listen. We're going to take our time in implementing. We're going to engage our teachers continuously, and we may revise that as we go forward. But I think this is a huge leap forward in bringing our teachers and our admin and our board together on how we go about the most important work of what we do, and that's teaching. So again, thank you, very well done, and thank you to the board.
Teaching and learning community assessment plan.
Just stay up here.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're just
I
gonna
forgot I
have
was
the chair at the end of the
I'm getting
table.
good steps in now, so it's all right. As I said, the top concern on that list was assessment. And so we took actually a lot of time to work through this process. It wasn't as clear cut to us as the evaluation process was. We knew what we didn't like and we knew what we liked in the assessment and evaluation process. The assessment took a lot more back and forth, go back to your teachers, figure out what, get feedback. We took a lot more time on that. We have come up with an assessment plan that we do like. Ms. Williams has worked very diligently with the math vertical team. I know that math is concerned, and so we are looking for, we really needed and wanted an assessment tool that would be consistent K through 12. And so they worked very diligently and came up with the STAR math assessment that would be used within that assessment plan. STAR reading is also going to be used K through 12. We would like to use that as well, and that is something that we've deemed very beneficial. And Ms. Williams had a huge part in laying all of that out with our vertical teams to get that put together. What I would like to do, rather than asking for approval of the assessment plan, which is in your, I believe that is also in your packet, what I would like to do is put that on hold and have that approved final before we start the school year next year. And that way, the new assistant superintendent can work with our building principals to determine maybe timelines and exactly what the application of that assessment plan looks like. But we have a very nice framework lined out for the beginning next year.
Wasn't this, excuse me, wasn't the STAR program used in elementary and partial middle school already?
The reading has been.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, that you guys have been asking for this program for a long time. Okay, this is the one that I'm remembering. Good.
I don't know if it's appropriate time to ask the right question, but to ask the question or not. But, I thought we were eventually looking forward to possibly start replacing Study Island.
Yes, that will happen next year. We also do that.
Yeah, I thought this was.
Didn't Study Island, wasn't it last year that Study Island, you could go all the way down through the grades, or was that one of the problems that we had with Study Island? We couldn't, it jumped, you couldn't track, I guess I'm trying to say.
Ms. Williams can answer that.
Okay.
You've been working with that.
Yes. In Study Island last year, actually, we have always been able to go K, 8 with Study Island, that's what we've always purchased, we used to have for ELA and for math. We found that ELA was not as effective, so we dropped that part off so that we didn't have that extra assessment. And in the last couple of years, because K2, we actually customized and we created our own benchmarks. We didn't like it was giving us the data that we needed. We still had, this was the last year of that contract, and so we are using it for 4th grade, for our benchmarking for 4th grade. But we have, since it wasn't giving us information, they changed the assessment when we went to the Smarter Balanced assessment in state of Missouri. They changed it and it became much harder. So at 3rd grade, one of the tests was just like 56 questions, which was just kind of ridiculous. And so we felt like, you know, that really wasn't the tool that we needed to use anymore. We wanted more of a diagnostic in math that would really break down and show us where is that gap in learning, what is it the students are missing, and how can we fill that. And so with the START 360, we really feel like that's going to fill that gap for us. We did a diagnostic tool. With that diagnostic tool, it will allow us to put students into the appropriate standards that they need. So if that is a student who needs remediation, that can drop them down into that grade level, and the teacher can automatically set that for them. But if it's a student who's advanced, so maybe it's a first grader testing at a second grade level, you can actually assign them the second grade level, so it can also enrich students. So it gives them the full span. They can do a lot with those students to help them at their learning need. Additionally, the STAR Math product also allows for some practice, so the teacher can have assignments in there, and kids may go home and do them, or they can be in the computer lab doing them. So they can set up stations in their classroom when they're working with small groups, other students can be working on things to advance their math. And the final piece to that is a flashcard kind of program where the kids can go online and they can actually try to beat their own time, and it just builds that back fluency in math. So.
How long will it take to develop a program? I mean, this is obviously a program, but how long will it take, I guess, for the results to come to fruition so we can figure out where these problems are that we're having with math and ELA and reading?
It's almost immediate. I mean, they take the diagnostic, and the teacher gets a few tools. They get an individual report for every student, and they also get a classroom report for every student. At the district level, you can set that up across the grade level, so you can even pull it and have your students, if you wanted to do response to intervention, where you move the students around across the whole grade levels. You can pull the students, you know which students across the grade level can be pulled through similar needs. There's a lot more diagnostic reports in the STAR 360 than we had even with the STAR level that we had previously.
So you're saying almost immediate, so I'm saying then within the first month of school next year, that we should have this identified where our problems are?
We should be able to look and see where any gaps are and see where those individual students and grade level class students.
Good.
And then start working on it.
Because obviously we have problems and we need to sort those out, and that needs to be immediately done. And I feel very strongly about that, so I hope that this will do that for you, so we can get those problems sorted out and get everybody on the right track.
Well, here again, from the board's perspective, we were told for several years now that the other program was the best program around.
And it was very good, and it was highly recommended, but when we moved to the Common Core, and Common Core went into full place as our state expectations for each grade level, they changed the tool to meet that assessment, to try and kind of garnish and be able to make some predictions about how students would score on that assessment. And so it changed the assessment, and when you changed an assessment, it became longer. They tried to put more toward that goal, and then we changed our expectations again, went to the Missouri Learning Standards, and they changed the assessment a third time. So we've just found that over the years, as they made those changes, the efficiency has, and what we needed wasn't in there.
Now, how is this going to fit in with ESA then?
With ESA, it should fit right in with that, because ESA believes in, one of the things they want to do is kind of reduce some of the assessments, make it a local control. And so this certainly would help us with that. The STAR Math you can give, or even in the STAR Reading, you can give across the general population 3-4 times a year, and that would all you would need. But if I need to work more intensely with the student, I can give it up to once a month as I change my interventions to see, is that intervention working? And if it's not working, I can say, okay, this isn't working for the student, I'm going to change my intervention right now, or the strategy I'm using to teach with my child.
Because I think the biggest concern is that gap that we're seeing from middle school to 9th and 10th grade. We're seeing a math gap there, really bad math gap, and it's picking up after that. But this will help cure that problem then, to see where the actual problem is then.
Yes. And as Ms. Morrison, I've talked before, she's a former math teacher, you know, with ELA, it kind of has a natural incline as you move up with your expectations. In math, it kind of takes a strong and suddenly a big jump in the expectations.
Well, it's not going up though, we're going
Well, I'm
down.
saying the expectation for students is going up. And so it isn't as an easy slope up.
Right, but we gotta figure that out to see whether we can come down into the middle school and advance it there, so that'll be an easier progression into the high school. Because we can't be, I mean, we're just losing a big area there between middle school and 9th and 10th grade on math progression.
Well, and the other part of this is that it will allow us to use, now we're using one program K-12. And so it's a lot easier to communicate across that and understand what that means for everyone. So everyone has a shared vision and understanding of it.
Well, Dan, I agree with losing a bit between middle school and high school, but let's not forget that math and reading and language arts starts at the elementary school.
Oh, yeah, I'm not discounting that, I'm just saying that what we're seeing right now, I mean, a vision that we're seeing right now is that 9th and 10th grade math is just tanking. And then, then we're coming back up, but we're losing a big area.
I would disagree with you actually there on one count. If you look at our state assessments last year, we actually had an increase in our math scores in our state assessments when I would dare say almost all districts around us went down in their math assessments last
Okay,
year. So we are improving.
This is the problem I'm having there, though. You're saying, you're giving me, well, look at our state math assessments and everything. But then you're coming to me and you're showing me reports of 9th and 10th grade teachers that the students' average is falling into the ground. So how can you, I don't want to, that doesn't match up.
So
There's got to be an even ground there somewhere that we have to meet.
So we take a number of different measurements, and we have some students that are clearly trending with growth. We have some students that obviously continue to struggle in that. It may not start between middle school to high school, but that's where it becomes more, we realize it more because of the content and what's required to perform at that level. We recognize we have an issue. In fact, the board will be hearing more from an administrative recommendation next month on, right now we do some reading intervention work. Next month we will be approaching the board with math intervention assistance. We have to catch it early. This tool allows us to identify, to inform what we do, and then we can push those students that need that assistance with our intervention. And together with the tools and the personnel, we think we can close that gap. And believe me, you know, with the students that you're talking about, there is nobody in this room that likes to see students fail or fail to pass a class. And we take that very serious. And we are taking that serious. This is one step among many that we're going to take to address that issue. And you're right. And it's encouraging to me to see you emotional about it, because that's how we all feel, and I appreciate it and respect it, and we are going to address that.
Well,
to you.
At this point, I agree with Ms. Matthews. And when you start talking about K through 4, K through 5, we've made some positive changes. We have adopted we put forth the adoption of hiring a remedial math teacher and a remedial language arts teacher. I mean, we've got the remedial reading teacher now in place at this school. Well, that's a good thing. And we'll probably see the fruits of that labor here in the near future, knowing that we're getting those other kids extra help, including them on the math side also. So we're moving forward in a positive direction, doing a good job in an effort to try to help these kids. And like I said, if we catch them when they're younger, maybe we'll realize the fruits of that labor when they get to be in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. So, we're working on it.
And then, Mr. Pendilli, I didn't mean to say that we have no gap. That is not what I meant to say about that. But what I meant to say was that with our efforts, we are making gains on closing that gap. And so
that's all I'm asking.
Absolutely.
That we're not ignoring that and leaving that to the wind. That is all I'm asking, because it has got to be resolved.
Absolutely.
Well, I think you even brought that to our attention 2 months ago, so, I mean, I think we're all aware that, and that you're working on it, and I think this is just another tool. Nothing takes place of that one-on-one that you can get with the kid. This is just a tool to help us identify that. So, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any other questions? Sorry,
Let us know how it's working.
We have a couple items that we wrote down for the correspondence. And minute review. So we have two members that have decided not to run for non-master school district board, and that is Tony Morris and Morgan Hildebrand. So their names will be on the ballot, however, because it's too late to change that. But then for various reasons have elected not to run. We have a couple other people here tonight that are running. We have Mr. Tom Hughes right there on the way, so I'll bring up to you're at. Okay. And we have Mr. Brett Robles. Okay. So we're glad to see that you're attending our meetings.
Larry Bolton was here.
Oh, I didn't see him. I'm sorry. Okay, and Larry Bolton was here. So,
Tony Morris did, I saw the novel item today, there was a letter from Mr. Morris in there. That pulled himself out of the election.
and we meet the candidate is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the middle school.
So we hope, please help us spread the word. It's a very important election. We appreciate our candidates for being here this evening. I just want to say, before we adjourn, to the board, thank you. This was a big agenda and you guys were notified of that. There was a lot of content in here, and I can tell from the conversation, the questions, the input, that you took your time to prepare very well for a good meeting, and we accomplished a lot tonight. So I want to thank the board sincerely, the administration again, and the teachers for all the work that went into the agenda items tonight. It was a big meeting and hopefully a very big positive step forward for bringing our teachers, board, and administration together. So thank you.
2.5 hours.
That was good too.
Okay, so we're going to move into an executive session.
I make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 610.0213, 13, 9, and 1. By roll call vote.
All right, we'll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
We'll meet back in executive session at 25 minutes to 9.